Hello and welcome to Different Perspectives. I'm Paul Ndiho in Washington. Tensions are mounting between Nigeria and the United States after President Donald Trump ordered the U.S. military to prepare for possible action in Nigeria. He accuses the Nigerian government of failing to protect Christian communities from attacks by Islamist militant claims that violent monitors say aren't backed by clear evidence, noting that Muslims have also been widely targeted. In a forceful response, Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has rejected the allegations, defending Nigeria's record on religious freedoms and calling on the US claims to be politically motivated. The standoff now raises serious questions about US Nigeria relations, religious rights, and the risk of military escalation. Joining us to break this down is Dr. Daniel Bwala, Special Advisor to President Tinubu on media and policy communication. He's also the official spokesperson of the president. We'll unpack the facts behind the accusations, the government's response, and what this could mean for democracy, security across the West African region. Doctor, welcome to Different Perspectives.
Thank you for having me, and good to be on your show.
It's a pleasure to have you for the first time. First of all, let's get into it. How does the Nigerian government respond to President Trump's claims that Christians in Nigeria are systematically targeted by Islamist militant groups like Boko Haram?
Well, the designation came to us as a shock because we know that we have a good relationship with the American government. We have very good diplomatic relationship, and we've been communicating well with each other. We have lots of things that we have interest in, what in diplomatic cycle they call shared interests and shared destiny. And of course, we know that our recent successes in the fight against terrorism is one that the American government has been appreciating. Only a few months ago, I think three or four, when we arrested the leader of Ansar terrorist group, the American government praised Nigeria. Months before that, when we decimated some bandits, they also praised our effort in the fight against terrorism, insurgency, and criminal elements. So under the doctrine of regularity, we thought that we are on page with them. So, but when this came out, we became surprised, especially because because the hoax around Christian genocide didn't start today. It started a long time ago. People have been going to DC and reporting that case. You know, the foundation of it all is a misinformation campaign that started with the IPOB, and their aim is to lump everything together and get Nigeria to be on the bad picture or back page of bad books of foreign government, especially the United States of America. So, and because for many years that they've been doing that, we didn't see America put credence to that. We thought that it was sufficient to say that the U.S. government is well aware that that was a hoax and a false fake news. So, but when that came, we now became a bit surprised. But knowing that Republican congressmen like Senator Ted Cruz, House of Rep member Riley Moore, and some other social media and podcasters who are of the MAGA base or the right wing of the Republican Party picking it, we felt that fueled the decision of President Donald Trump. But we are engaging diplomatically, and we believe that in the coming days, these things are going to be behind us.
Interesting. Independent reports suggest that both Muslims and Christians are victims of the violence in Nigeria. What does the data you have on your end say to counter this narrative from the right wing Christians out here in the United States?
And quite frankly, we have enough data. Some of the data did not emanate from us, right? For example, we know that there was an assessment by the United States Institute of Peace, the USIP. We know that there was assessment by the Department of State themselves. There was assessment by the Human Rights, Amnesty International, European Union, and some other non-governmental organizations in Nigeria. And all of the assessment by these bodies that I have mentioned concluded that we have a case of insecurity in Nigeria, but we have significantly improved in the sense that there is a decline of the killings since 2018 or so. This is the unanimous report, and that was the status quo. But there are two reports which are both influenced by the separatist group. One is a report by Inter-Society Civil Liberties and Human Rights. And thankfully, we saw this from day one when we read their report, and we saw the linkage between their report and the IPOB. When we started sounding out, people thought we were joking. But only this morning, I saw a publication that BBC ran fact checks and investigation, and they came up with a finding that indeed IPOB fuel amplified and were behind the hoax of Christian genocide, and they gave their data to support that. So that support the view that the data of IPOB, which we believe is fake news, is the one that the congressmen relied on. The other report is one by Observatory for Religious Freedom in Africa. That one, although it did not mention IPOB, but it's also fed off to the narrative of Christian genocide. But the report itself is contradictory. First of all, the organization was established in 2010 from Holland, and it is Observatory for a Report on Africa, but they have so far only done a report on Nigeria, and which begs the question as to the credibility of that organization. But in any case, their own finding supports our case, which is that there have been killings of Christians, of Muslims, and those who have not identified with the faith. And they are the ones that try to put the proportionality to say the ones without faith are more in number, followed by Christians, and then you have the Muslim people. But they all agree that it is one set of people, which is the Fulani jihadis, that were the ones behind the killing of all of them. So we now made the case and say, if you see that there is killing across board to the point where you are even bringing proportionality, can you in the same page also say it's a genocide? When you talk of genocide, it has to be isolated, it has to be targeted, and it has to relate to a group. And these are individuals that are doing it indiscriminately. Even the IPOB, they are Christians. The entire southeastern Nigeria constitute, I think, 95 or so percent as Christians. They are Christians killing Christians and the rest. Do you also say it's a genocide against the Christian? So this is the data that we have to support the view. And when we came into the Western world, to the US, in the last 1 week, when we began the campaign to countering the disinformation, if you see the report of the mainstream media, they have all agreed with us that the hoax around Christian genocide is complicated and cannot be verified. But the evidence that suggests, the evidence that is out there is that the killing is indiscriminate and it affects people of all religion. So it's a hoax, it's not a reality.
How about now? President Trump has threatened or has warned of a possible U.S. military action if the Nigerian government doesn't do anything to that effect. In fact, he has also threatened to suspend aid for Nigeria. How is the Nigerian government preparing for this diplomatically and strategically in the event that there is escalation of some sort?
So on a diplomatic angle, we are engaging, and probably in the coming days you will see the fruit. But you know that in diplomatic realm, protocol is very important. So when you are running a diplomatic engagement, it is not one that you can bring to the pages of newspaper or to the media because it might prejudice the outcome. It will just be sufficient to say that we've started the diplomatic engagement. That's on the side of diplomacy. But on the general note of whether or not there will be military action, we do not think it will be. First of all, if you read what he stated, both on his social media and with the recorded video played yesterday, he is saying that if Nigeria does not do anything about it, that's before he places sanction. And then after sanction, he might go ahead to bring military. So military is the extreme case. Sanction is next if there's no improvement. But the good thing on our own side is that he's singing to the choir because we are already dealing with insecurity. I told you about the success story that we've accomplished, which the US government acknowledged and praised us. Do you know that even few days before the designation, our president, had already, in a bid to boost this our fight against terrorism, reject the security architecture in Nigeria. That is the zero tolerance on non-performance. That's our president. Recently, when there was a killing in Yelwata, when the president went to Benue, he made sure that his communication with the armed forces was in the media glare. When he asked that I have given you days to arrest culprit, days after that culprits were arrested. If you look at the investment we have made in the procurement of arms and ammunition, both light weapons and as well as the aircraft and the way we engage it. That is one of the successes that has given us the ability to decimate Boko Haram and some of the bandits, using aerial power. Our ground troops are also doing well. Our intelligence platforms are collecting intelligence, and the intelligence is being processed by other relevant security forces, which is giving us results. In a nutshell, I would say this: the noise that is in the media today against Nigeria relates to old video, old report, and old information perpetrated by the separatists. Nobody has been moving, parading, or using newer information. What I mean by newer information is information from 2023 May, when the president became president, till today, to say this is a proof that we are not doing anything. Because if you base your report on these facts, then all you can be saying is Nigeria is doing her best. So this is what we try to distill and distinguish. Diplomatic side, we're engaging. On the physical side, we have assured our people we will not get to that extent of military action in Nigeria, because we're already fighting it, and we're letting the American government see the extent and effort that we're making in that regard. So all is good.
How about critics who said that despite all the efforts made by President Ahmed Tinubu uh, and his administration, these militants are still looming large. Nothing much has been done in terms of trying to stop them and even maybe follow the money where they're getting funding from. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, to what extent can you say that the administration has maybe is working very hard to stop these guys from causing more harm?
Yes, the reason why it is difficult to end it in the way, pace, and the speed that probably the world or people around are seeing it is because of the varying factors that associated with our experiences. Nigeria is a very large country, the largest black population in the world. We have over 230 million population of multilingual, multicultural, multiracial, and you also have the complexities of culture. That's number one. Number two, we have a porous border. We have porous border over the years. We have our West African neighbors, and these borders have been used by the criminal elements who come in from West African Sahel. They strike and they go back. Oftentimes, when they share their videos in the media and you play the video, you will see even the language they speak is not peculiar to the accent and language of the people in Nigeria. So you know that they came from outside. That's why we've been strengthening our relationship in that joint by commission war against terrorism. We with our neighbors, we provide them with the infrastructure they need, so they can also help us in stopping from their end. And then there are cases where we do joint operations together. It is one other area that is affecting the extent of success. And when they come into the country, we have large landmass, right? There are states. I know of a state in Nigeria that is larger than a country in Europe. So you can imagine, even when the Boko Haram started, after they were chased out of the populace, they went to Sambisa because a large expanse of land, as if you cannot know the beginning and the end. This is another reason why it's difficult for the government to immediately end it. Because they come in, they hide, they play, they operate from ungoverned spaces, right? This is the second one. The third one is that in intelligence sharing, yes, collection, sharing, and implementation, we our law enforcement, especially from the intelligence platforms like NIA, and especially SSS, which deals with internal security of the state, they are doing very well. Some of the intelligence they process are the things that have led up to the arrest of these bandits, Boko Haram, and the rest. And we've been making lots of arrests. I am sure yesterday you heard in the press statement when they mentioned over 13,000 arrests that have been done so far. We are also applying the non-kinetic approach because we feel that the complexity of this war against banditry, terrorism, and the rest, at other times you might need to apply the non-kinetic, where if they can surrender, then rather than being prosecuted, you will rehabilitate them and hope to reintegrate them back to the society. We did that sometimes back in Borno, and then some of them ran back to the bush, and then they started striking, having lived with us, having worked with us, having assessed our capability. They went back to the bush, and then that's how the reinforcement and all of that comes. So these are the reasons why people wonder why, even though we're making the progress, but that it is still not finishing. It is like you are you are fetching water in a bucket that is very large, but beyond that, under the bucket, there are places that are leaking. So, are we making effort to block the leakage? Yes. That's why we need our development partners, not just the United States, but countries of the world to help us with the armory, machineries, and hardwares that we need that will take care of that. And of course, you know that all this high-tech drone system that can collect intelligence when people are sleeping, can be used to achieve all of that. This is why even when we say we have marked success, people don't see it as though it is as much as they can see. Do you know, with all of our struggle, on this note, I will tell you, we are still a country with low crime rate as compared to the United States of America, with the biggest defense budget in the world.
To your point, have you tried to engage the United States in that regard? Instead of them sending military guys to come and root out Boko Haram, have you tried to engage them in areas of cooperation? Let's say so,
Yes.
maybe to help you with the weapons that can detect and see these guys before they even attack.
Yes, actually, the engagement has been on for a long time. In fact, that was what led to the approval by Donald Trump of certain ammunitions, which before now, President Barack Obama did not approve of them to be sold to us. But you see, when we bought from Donald Trump, we are using them. But you can imagine with emerging threats, you are using Super Tucano. We are talking about America having difficulty dealing with terrorism with F-15, F-18, and F-22. They have to come up with F-35, and they have the reconnaissance planes that they have. Even with that, you can imagine that it took America nearly 11 years before they got Osama bin Laden with all of the technology. You see, warfare and terrorism is complex. It requires cooperation by all and sundry. So we are engaging them on what we need in terms of improved access to those weapons so we can fight. We have made lots of deposit on the agreed weapons that we could use, some of which were delivered some years back, some delivered, I think, a year or two ago. More are still on their way. But I'm sure that this conversation by Donald Trump might spark up a broader conversation around approving a more higher and more advanced ammunitions and hardwares that will help us deal with emerging threats. You can never deal with new threats you can never end or deal with new threats using old weapons.
Uh, Critics argue that this move by the United States undermines Nigeria's sovereignty. How is the Nigerian government balancing this international pressure with its domestic policy?
We made it clear to them, the U.S. government, that they couldn't, and they can't come to our soil with not just boots on the ground, but their planes can't fly our airspace, nor their drones fly our airspace unless it is agreed by both parties. And the reason is just simple. Nigeria is not a hostile country. Nigeria is not promoter of terrorism. It is only countries that are promoting or assisting or harboring terrorists that the relevant laws in the U.S. permit the President of the United States to authorize clandestine operations there. But Nigeria is a friend. We share intelligence. The other time that they came and took the to rescue the missionary in the soil of Nigeria, it was something that was agreed to by the U.S. government and Nigeria. So if there is that understanding, there would always be cooperation. That's why countries of the world, some have allowed military base in their country. I mean, there is a military base in Germany, of U.S. military base in England, U.S. military base in different places, but it has to be agreed. When you come to a country without agreement, is hostile, it is provocative, It is against international order and convention. It is now more inimical when the country is a partner and you are doing so. So, but we also know that President Donald Trump does not think he will do that. We can understand the language, the harshness of the language, or the bars in the tone, but we know that is his strategy. So we follow him by while looking at the art of the deal.
To that end, President Donald Trump doesn't mince words. When he says stuff, he means it sometimes. What would a breakdown in diplomatic relations with the U.S. Mean for Nigeria's foreign policy, especially in terms of trade, security cooperation, and investment? I know they're always investing in Nigeria. They also want oil there and other minerals. Uh, what would that mean?
So we have not been approached that U.S. need mineral in turn. Usually, it is only when they go to war in a country that you both agree that they would say when they come invest their infrastructure and weaponry and time and soldiers, you will pay them back in oil. When you are not invited, how can you come and be saying you need oil? Are you a thief? So we do not think that would happen because we are not a hostile country. We continue to say we are a strategic partner. In fact, we are more strategic a partner to the US than any African country in African continent. This is how important Nigeria is. Has the largest black population in the world, has the highest number of PhD holders in America are Nigerians. The highest number of successful immigrants in the US are Nigerians. The highest number of immigrant medical doctors and consultants in the United States of America are Nigerians. The highest number of immigrants in the US government are Nigerians. This is a strong strategic partner. You cannot create a diplomatic role like that. It will not all go well. It is in US national security interest that Nigeria be assisted because we save a lot for the United States if we are strong and virile defending the cause that we both share, which is democracy, rule of law, advancement of the cause of justice, human rights. All of these things are values that American foreign policy is enshrining. Nigeria represents that. So Nigeria is a partner in achieving the US national security interests and policy. So I don't think it is fair that the US government will start thinking about military operation without permission.
Daniel, earlier you talked about how some congressional leaders, some senators here in the United States have somehow come up with this information that puts Nigeria in a bad light. Has the Nigerian government, maybe through different diplomatic channels or lobbying, tried to reach out to these specific congressional leaders to clarify their position and what's happening in the country to prevent
So,
further escalation?
so we decided to use direct engagement. And the reason is not because we underrate lobby, but we also are acutely aware that some of the lobbies in Washington are the proponents of the problem. They create the problem and offer solution to the US government and offer solution to their prospective clients so you can engage them. In other cases, you say there is hardly no difference between them and private military contractors who also will want the government to brief them to go to other countries and carry out clandestine operations. So when you have a situation like that, you have to be careful about who you brief to engage with the US government. First of all, it has to be not just a registered lobby in DC, but lobbies with credibility, lobbies that the US government reckon with. But Nigeria has passed the level of having to use lobby to talk directly to the US. We have a higher level of a place on the table that has given us the legitimacy to engage directly without having to need lobby. That is not to say we don't need lobby or we cannot use lobby. If the need arises, we will. But at the moment, we are engaging directly.
In case you are just joining us, we are live and streaming on all social media platforms. And my guest is Dr. Nane Bwala, Special Advisor to Nigerian President on Media and Policy Communication, and is also the official spokesperson. He's here to unpack Nigeria's government position, the data behind these allegations, what the escalating situation could mean for the US Nigeria relations, democracy, and of course, regional security. And let me come back to you, Daniel. Beyond security oppression. What steps is Tinubu's administration taking to address the underlying issues that fueling religious and ethnic violence across the country?
So what we do is we have multifaceted approach to it because we're dealing with the Nigerian citizens and in relationship with foreign nationals in Nigeria. So with respect to foreign nationals in Nigeria, we engage diplomatically through the channels available. When it comes to dealing with Nigerians, we are guided by our constitution. Section 14 says the security of life and the welfare of the people is the responsibility of government. And if you look at the administration of President Bola Tinubu from 2023 that he came, he was carefully focused on policies that directly affect the Nigerian people and also help them in their day-to-day life. When you're dealing with insecurity, a lot of people don't know it is not just the guns and the bombs or stopping the guns and the bombs. For example, hunger, dealing with hunger is a national security issue. It's called food security and it's a national security. When you deal with emerging threats like outbreak of diseases, health challenges, we have health crisis in Nigeria in the area of kidney, in the area of renal failure and all that. And the federal government has introduced policy that subsidize dialysis in Nigeria. We have explosion of childbirth in the country. He introduced a policy that gave free cesarean section across Nigeria in government hospitals. We have a large population of people, some of whom are out of education. So we have to encourage them by demonstrating the effort of the government in promoting education. And we introduced the NEL Fund, where we provide funding for students in tertiary institutions to go and study without having to have headache. So it covers the tuition and cost of living. We have given over 500,000 beneficiaries at the moment, and we're expanding it to go to beyond 1 million, and then we can even reach that one out to private hospital, private universities as well. If you look at infrastructure, which is the key component and driver of progress, you would see that in our Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway, what we have invested to ensure that we create jobs and we create trade and commerce in that line. There is no part of the geopolitical zone in Nigeria at the moment where there is no infrastructure going. Some are continuing from the previous administration, some started, about to be completed, some even have started and completed infrastructure. Look at our airports to boost, because we know infrastructure boosts trade. We're doing all of this with limited resources, because our budget for this year is less than $40 billion, about 35 billion or thereabout. And this 35 billion takes care of all area. There is no part and sector of our national life that is not calling for money. It is incredible how our president, through ingenuity of the economic reform that he has initiated, which has given us a leeway now to have non-oil revenue. Last August, we were able to beat our target for the non-oil revenue for the whole year. We met it in August. Incredible idea. By January, when our tax reform, which has just been passed to law, come into effect, you will see how we will be able to revive revenue generation in Nigeria, so that it will help us to reinvest and increase the investment in critical areas of the economy. If you look at the youthful population of Nigeria, we introduce policies that boost their entrepreneurship, that give them the incentive. Even our civil servant, in order to fight corruption, we have introduced a credit system where they can access credit, even business people. So we are doing that, like we're facing multifaceted approach to it, so that at the end of the day, the Nigerian citizen will not have to either be involved in criminal activities or be enticed by terrorists, or come to a point where they are unproductive and become a nuisance to the society. This is our all-pronged approach to it. We don't look at one side and close from the other. And if you look at our defense budget, you will know that we are serious about fighting insecurity. Defense budget in Nigeria for 2025 is not a joke. All you need to know is look at the budget, then you will tell what is the statement of the president dealing with terrorism. We are serious about that.
Mhm. When I was doing my research, and in fact, you alluded to this earlier, I found out that most of the things that we see about Nigeria are coming from either external or internal actors who are just exploiting these religious tensions. Based on your analysis, based on the information you have at your disposal, is there any bearing to some kind of truth to that statement that I just made. People exploiting these religious tensions for their own expedience.
Yes, it is called the IPOB, is Indigenous People of Biafra. It's a separatist group for a long time. They use all other strategies, right, to create disharmony because their goal is to break Nigeria, to break away, they said. But they don't want to go, they want to break it. And they resort to criminal activities. They are not doing it constitutionally. They are the people that introduced the ESM in the East. They kill people. They ask people not to come out on Monday in solidarity with their leader who is being charged and tried for terrorism. So this is how the story around Christian genocide, came. And they've been doing that. Unfortunately, our highly responsible religious leaders ignorantly just bought the idea thinking that it was genuine. And they started running with it to say there is a genocide of Christians. But they have not been able to give a data that will establish that. So every campaign about Christian persecution has not been supported by data, not a single one. Because if you look at it from data and data, you will see there is not isolation targeting of a particular religion. All religions have been victims where crises have occurred, right? And in fact, we don't even want to go deeper because if we go to the issue of whataboutism, we will even show that more Muslims have been killed than Christians because most of these crises are in the northern Nigeria, which is largely dominated by Muslims. As a government, we also know that if the reason why they are preaching that is because they want to create a division, the crisis of religion, so they can instigate the Western world to apply the Sudan approach to Nigeria, where you divide the country across religious lines. So it is from that's the origin. But then later, religious leaders, because of crises as they keep occurring, they tend to think that that represents what they are seeing. Then they now started making representation to lawmakers in the Western world. And from this side of heaven, the conservative base of U.S. government, they look at that as if it is a resonating language. And for example, we know, and we don't want to emphasize that because we want solution, but we know that what we're seeing is pretext. There's an underlying causes for the conflict, which we are seeking to de-escalate. The one is that we refuse to accept the Venezuelans. And then secondly, we participate with activities of the BRICS to meet with our national security interests. And then the third one, our position on for two-state solution and condemnation of inhumane treatment. Some of these things, some quotas are not happy, and then so they now dust off this old fake news narrative of Christianity being persecuted as a pretext to start threatening fire and brimstone. But we are happy that President Donald Trump is also a measured man. From when these things started spreading, he didn't take a step until at some point. But from that day, he took a step till today. You can see that there is no military operation or preparation. You remember Hegseth said immediately after Donald Trump tweeted that the soldiers are getting ready, but there is no soldiers anywhere getting ready. We understand what he wants, that we should double down on the fight against terrorism. And we are happy to be told that what we're doing is good and that we should double down, and we want it. So when we sit down, we'll now tell him what we need more. And by the way, Nigeria is not a beggarly country. There's no equipment given to us that is free. It's not a freebie. We pay. We even pay upfront, which has not been the convention. The convention used to be the supply you pay later. But to show willingness on our side, we pay upfront. So we are serious about terrorism. Which president will be happy that his own country, will be terrorized by a criminal element? It will not give him the good reputation. So no president that is worth his onions will encourage that. And this particular president, he has zero tolerance towards terrorism. That's why he didn't mind changing the service chiefs. And you will see in the coming days, there are officials of government that are going to either be reassigned or sacked if they are not effective on their job. This is how serious this president is.
Mm. In my previous role at the Voice of America, I had the privilege of crisscrossing Nigeria. I went all the way to northern Nigeria, to southern Nigeria. I'm very familiar with the terrain, the country itself, the people. But the one thing that maybe struck me back then Uh, in some cases, there was a point where I was almost caught up in tension between Muslims and Christians. Uh, from a government's perspective, uh, what message do you, since you speak for the president, what message would you give to Nigerians uh, who are Muslims and Christians who are caught up in this thing and in the middle of this international debate? How are these people responding? How would you assure or arrest their fears?
To be honest, we want to first thank the Nigerian people because when this thing started, they didn't even bother. In fact, we were 2 weeks before I came to the US. My team and I, on the instruction of Mr. President, started engaging with the religious leaders. Our first wing of the movement was with the Christian communities. So we had meeting with Christian Association of Nigeria, we had with Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, we had with Charismatic Conference of Bishops of Nigeria. And then we got the feedback of what their experiences, their thoughts, their fears, their commendation. They are all part of peace building exercise because we knew the Western people are going to charge them up. So we just wanted them to know the government cares. We've been showing that, but we wanted to reaffirm that. And we're hoping that when I come back from the US, that was our agenda. We will now meet our Islamic leaders and various Islamic sects and organizations to pass the same message. On the government side, we are engaging with our people. And we want to thank the Nigerian people. Since then, I mean, there would have been religious war, but there is none. Even when the same IPOB, they are making it look like the Muslims should be angry because Christians reported them. All of this is just gears towards creating crisis in Nigeria. Our Muslim brothers have not bought that. We are united. We know what we have been through. We've been through a lot in our past. We now want to forge ahead and create a future for our children. Nigeria is the strongest black population in the world. And I think the world knows of the strategic importance of Nigeria to the destiny of the black race. So we are not prepared to give room for anybody to divide us.
One person on social media just sent me a note saying that maybe I should ask you this. Would Nigeria be open for the United States to send in military forces to support the Nigerian troops in the fight against these Islamic militants?
He said, no,
Would you
no.
consider?
We said, no, no. We said it from the beginning. Let me be honest with you. If you bring the American forces to Nigeria and reverse the case, that is, you bring the Nigerian American forces and give them the Nigerian tools in their hand, they will not do what our soldiers are doing. The reason America is strong is because of the high-tech, advanced weapon system that they have. All right? So what we're saying, since we have soldiers on ground who understand the terrain, it will take a lot for the American forces to understand our terrain. It's not like a flat terrain like that. To understand the people, it's a asymmetric war. It's not like a regimented country-to-country war where you just come and throw bomb. How do you go into the society and bring out the Boko Haram? American government does not have the capability to end this terrorism. They need partnership with Nigerians. And all that we're saying is we have people, we have willingness, we have the training. We just need the right tools. That's all. So if all we need is a right to, why do you have to bring your soldiers to come and die? Is it not what the Congress probed recently after almost 20 years of invasion of Afghanistan, where you have hundreds of thousands of American soldiers that have died? They say henceforth the policy is rather than putting boots on the ground, give those host countries the right tools they need. And they do the work for you, serve your cause, serve your army. That's what we need. Except if there's a sinister plan, you don't have to bring your boots on our soil.
In other words, you become like a proxy army on their behalf, right?
Exactly. But in this case, instead of calling it proxy army, you see, a proxy army are people that gave themselves to be used to achieve the interests of their principal. In this case, no, we have a shared destiny. We have shared interest in fighting terrorism in the world. I mean, we are bound by that. And over the years, since when terrorism started from Iraq, Afghanistan, and the rest, Nigeria has played a pivotal role supporting the American government. And then when our own started, we also played pivotal role. You see, part of sharing intelligence means there are information that they necessarily need in their global chase for terrorism that we provide them. When we came to sharing our intel on financial crimes and terrorism financing, they benefited immensely from Nigeria. because that's how you track and trace the funding of terrorists. When this Nigerian that was once that tried to blow up the plane, if you remember that time,
Muhammad,
when
yeah.
yes, when the Congress investigated the case, they discovered that there was a weakness and on the side of FBI, because the father, for months and weeks before this incident, had warned FBI. Nigerian people have the spirit of fighting against terrorism. Like I told you, we've been through a lot. We've suffered family and loved ones. We have seen the death of people who would have achieved so much with their lives. We're not prepared for that. That's why the new day that President Bola Tinubu is bringing, we are not prepared to be in conflict with anybody to interfere or obstruct the reform that we're starting. Let me be honest with you. There could be jealousies around the Western world. We are building a refinery that is the biggest in the Europe. We look at our economic indices. Our dependence on importation has reduced drastically. Our export portfolio has gone up. We have seen a lot of natural produce in the country being exported around the world. So this is the structure that President Bola Tinubu is putting, so that our children will no longer, okay, when the trade dispute started between US, Canada, US, China, US, everybody talking, and people thought it was going to hurt us. We have developed a mechanism of non-oil revenue generation, so that even when the oil goes down, we'll be able to survive. We have a very robust approach to renewable energy and climate action now, that so that we too will be competing with the rest of the world without having to be involved in the burning of greenhouse gases. There's a revolution of economic development going on in Nigeria. The problem we have, my brother, is that we have a disproportionate reporting of events around the world. US has the highest crime rate. It doesn't make it to the news globally. When they talk about United States, they talk about investment power, project, clinical. But when they talk about Nigeria, each time you call Africa, what comes to the mind? Death, destruction, corruption. But if they can put their eyes to the ground and see the kind of reform going on in Africa, go to Kenya, go to South Africa, go to Nigeria, see what these leaders are doing with the limited resources. See what leaders are grappling with, even with foreign interests undermining their countries. So we have to be the one telling our own story. Why do you think I came to the West? If we had relied on the West to get their report from the people they plant in our countries, which most often they are either reporters of news media, or sometimes they work with non-governmental organizations who are also funded by foreign interests, who also give their reporting that will suit the narrative of the foreigners. We may never be able to get our news to the world. So it was when we came and we begin to speak to the Western media face to face, what we call in Africa face to face. That is when the world is now coming to the realization that, look, Nigeria is not G3. Nigeria study the mindset. We get the message. The message is we should double down our effort to fight terrorism. We are doing it, but we welcome a conversation where we will show you how far we've gone. And we will even tell you those things that we need in order to expand it. We had to come to bring our own story. If we had not come, this fake news around Christian genocide would have reverberated, and the whole world would think as if Nigeria is the hellfire for Christians. We had to come and tell them it is a fake news, because the killing is indiscriminate, the killing affects everybody, and that there is even a pretext. That is not the issue. There are deeper underlying issue. So this is Nigeria for you, and this is our mission. We are regaining our status as the giant of Africa and the voice of the black race.
I appreciate that. You reminded me of former U.S. President Richard Nixon, who once said that if you want history to judge you correctly, you either write it yourself or you commission somebody to write it for you. And in this
Mm,
particular case, you've come out to tell Nigeria's story, to talk about the facts,
yes,
which everybody needs to hear, because we have this narrative here that Christians are being massacred on a daily basis, and yet the facts don't say that. The facts say something different. So,
correct.
to your credit and to President Tinubu's credit, I think you guys need to continue telling this story, at least to discern facts from fiction.
Thank you. We're more than ready. I am going to be having in the coming days, because what I did was the global perspective, right? But we are going to zero. By the time I get back, I'm still coming back to DC. I'm coming back to the US. And our next focus will be to populate the conservative media outlets of both the legacy, the podcast, and the radio, because this is the consumer base of the lawmakers and decision makers of the current government in the United States, so that they will hear our own story on their own platform. And already I've been contacted about Tucker Carlson wanting that kind of thing to happen. We are also expecting to get a feedback from Joe Rogan. We will go to Steve Bannon. We will go to Candy Owens. We will go to Fox News. We will go to all the traditional and non-traditional media outlet. We will tell our story. We will not want anybody to tell the story for us. And thank God we have also Africans that are in the United States, such as your humble self and a lot of others who know the experiences of the African continent and the African people. And you are more than willing to give your platform for Africans to come and tell the African story. So kudos to you, and we're grateful to you and many other guys who are Africans who are here in the Western world providing those platforms.
I think I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I think the onus is on us as Africans really to shed light on what's happening in Africa. We've seen firsthand. I've been to Nigeria several times. Most of my friends here are Nigerians. I've been to more states than probably so many Nigerians
Wow.
across Nigeria, right?
Yeah,
So
good.
I I feel you. I hear what you guys are saying, but for sure, this rhetoric that is so, I guess, is so narrow. It needs to stop, and the way it stops is by the government pushing harder. You coming on at different platforms to try to dispel those narratives, and I could not thank you enough for being on this platform.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah,
And I hope that we will continue the engagement. I
absolutely,
have,
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so
yeah,
much. Mhm.
my pleasure. My
Uh,
pleasure, sir.
I know you have to leave, but it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. God bless.
Yeah, we want to know what you think about this crisis and this thing that is happening between the United States and Nigeria, where President Donald Trump has threatened to send troops to Nigeria. Uh, so let us know what you think about this crisis, unfolding crisis. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to Paul Liho on Substack, X, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, YouTube, and Spotify. Stay tuned for more continuing coverage on this platform. And of course, I will bring you any related news on Nigeria as these talks begin. Thank you so much.
Thank you.